Mom called it a reset, a family trip to the mountains, to some quiet hotel by Lake Madison in Montana. I didn't argue, though I wasn't sure who the family part really included anymore. Her new husband Grayson was coming. I'd only met him twice before. He seemed calm. Too calm. The hotel looked like something off a postcard. Wooden balconies, a lake you could hear even when you didn't see it, and miles of forest on all sides. It felt too far from everything. On the first night, a storm rolled in fast, and by morning, the roads were closed. Trees down, no way out. We were stuck. Mom had forgotten some papers in town and decided to drive back alone before things got worse. So it was just me and Grayson. He asked if I wanted to play a board game. I said okay. We sat across from each other in the common room, sipping store-bought lemonade. At first it was easy, just quiet talk and rolling dice. But after a while, his eyes didn't leave mine as quickly. He'd pause like he was studying me. I kept laughing, brushing it off, but something about his gaze was too sharp, like he was listening for what I wasn't saying. The second night, the hotel threw a bonfire out by the lake, some kind of get-to-know-your-neighbors thing. I wasn't in the mood, but Mom said, "You'll feel better if you go." She always said that, like feelings were switches you could flip. That's where I met Jake. He was a few years older, easy to talk to, and a little too confident in a way that somehow worked for him. Turned out he was the manager's son, filling in over summer. We ended up on the same team for a board game tournament by firelight, laughing, teasing, like we'd known each other longer than a few hours. When he asked me to dance, I didn't think. I just said yes. It wasn't really dancing, more like swaying in sneakers on uneven dirt while someone played an old playlist through a speaker. I felt normal again for a second. I walked back to our cabin alone. The trail was dark, quiet except for frogs and the crunch of gravel. Grayson was on the front steps, hands in his pockets like he'd been there a while. He said, "I was making sure you got back okay." I nodded, thanked him. But it didn't feel like protection. It felt like surveillance, like I'd been watched, not waited for. By the third night, the rain had turned serious. The power cut out just after sunset, and the whole place went quiet. In that weird way, only places without electricity can. We lit a few candles in the kitchen and cooked what we could on the gas stove. Me, Mom, and Grayson, all pretending it was fun. I was slicing vegetables when he asked, out of nowhere, "Have you ever felt like a stranger understood you more than your own family?" Mom looked up sharply. I didn't know if the question was meant for me or her, but something shifted in the room. I answered with something vague, about people connecting in unexpected ways, but my stomach was already uneasy. The conversation moved on, or maybe we just stopped talking. Later, Grayson poured tea for all of us, handing Mom hers first, then mine. As I took the mug, he said quietly, "You're grown now. You notice things. About people." His tone was even, but there was something in the way he looked at me, like he wanted me to confirm something I didn't understand yet, or maybe didn't want to. The candle flickered between us and the shadows didn't feel entirely harmless. The next day, Mom asked us to drive into the nearby village to pick up her documents, some insurance thing she'd left behind. I didn't want to go, but arguing felt pointless. Grayson drove. The roads were still wet from the storm, the trees leaning over the narrow lanes like they were watching. He played some old indie playlist through the speakers, songs I half recognized from years ago. At first, it was just small talk, his college days, jobs he hated, places he almost moved to but didn't. I laughed more than I meant to. Maybe I wanted it to feel normal. Halfway back, the windshield wipers jammed. He pulled over, got out, popped the hood, started fiddling with something. It started raining again, so I grabbed the umbrella and went out to help. We stood close. There, Wasn't much room under the umbrella. For a second, neither of us said anything. Then he looked at me and said, "You're not like your mom. You're warmer." Before I could process what that meant, he leaned in and kissed me. Just a second. I pulled back immediately and said, "You shouldn't have done that." He didn't apologize, didn't explain, just looked at me like I'd confirmed something he already believed. When Mom came back that evening, something in her felt off. She wasn't angry, not even distant in an obvious way, but her eyes didn't settle on me the same. At dinner, she mentioned casually that Jake had invited her for coffee, said he'd been asking about me, and laughed like it was a harmless joke. I forced a smile, but something cold settled in my chest. That night, Jake messaged me, "Does Grayson always get jealous, or just when I talk to you?" I didn't reply. The silence between everyone started to stretch, tight and quiet like a string about to snap. Grayson acted the same, calm and observant, but now every word he said felt like it had a second meaning. I started watching him back, trying to catch what he might give away. I noticed how his voice softened when Mom entered the room, and how quickly he looked away when our eyes met. No one said anything directly, but I could feel it. All of us watching, guessing, measuring the gaps between words like they held more truth than the words themselves. Saturday night, the hotel set up a movie screen outside, a cinema under the stars thing with blankets and popcorn and plastic chairs sinking into the grass. Mom insisted we all go. She wore makeup for the first time since we'd arrived, and kept adjusting her scarf like she didn't know what to do with her hands. Jake was running the event, joking into the mic between scenes, full of energy and charm that bordered on irritating. Then he started making comments about me, light teasing that got laughs from the crowd. I smiled, but my face felt wrong. I knew I was blushing. I hated that. Grayson stood behind the chairs, barely reacting. Afterward, as people were packing up, he said to me, "You don't wear that role well." Then he turned and walked off without waiting for a response. I was heading back alone when Jake caught up with me, still grinning from his performance. He leaned in for a kiss without asking, like it was expected. I pulled away. As I turned, I caught movement from the hotel window above, someone watching. I didn't need to guess who. The next morning, Mom asked me to walk with her down by the lake. It was overcast and quiet, the kind of silence that makes every footstep sound too loud. We walked a while before she said anything. Then, out of nowhere, she asked, "Are you in love with him?" She didn't look at me. I didn't answer. She stopped, staring out at the water. He was like this with my friend, before me. Subtle things, quiet attention. I ignored it, like it wouldn't touch me. And now, here we are. Her voice wasn't bitter, but it wasn't soft either. It just was. I didn't know what to say. My throat was tight. I felt like a mirror being held up, and I didn't want to see myself in it. I left her standing there and walked back alone. Later, Grayson came to find me. He said, "You didn't ask for this. I'm the one who ruined the balance." He looked tired, but I couldn't tell if it was regret or just calculation. I didn't respond. I didn't trust my own words anymore. Everything felt distorted. His warmth, my silence, the parts of me that had responded when I shouldn't have. Jake texted again that afternoon. He wanted to meet to clear the air, his words. I agreed, more out of exhaustion than interest. We met near the maintenance shed, where the trees grew thicker and blocked most of the wind. He didn't waste time. "He kissed you, didn't he?" I didn't answer. He smirked, not because it was funny, but because he liked being right. "He does this," Jake said, leaning back against the fence. "He finds someone who's a little off balance and makes them think they're being seen for the first time. It's not love, it's sport." There was no sympathy in his voice, just the cold satisfaction of exposing something. I walked away before I said anything I'd regret. The rain started up again, and I didn't care. I followed the trail back, toward the building, trying not to cry but not really trying that hard. On the stairs, I nearly ran into Mom. She didn't say anything, didn't move, just looked at me. Her eyes didn't accuse, but they didn't forgive either. They just held all of it. Every word not said, every choice made too late. The next morning was bright in that dishonest way after heavy rain, everything wet and shining like nothing had cracked. Mom was already packed. Her suitcase stood by the door, zipped tight like the conversation we never finished. She didn't cry, didn't ask me to explain. She just looked at me once, the way people look at something they used to care about but can't anymore, and said, "I love you, but I won't forgive you." Then she left. Grayson was gone by late afternoon. He didn't say goodbye either, just left a note on the table, folded in half like it might soften the words. You were never to blame, but none of us stayed clean. It wasn't closure. It was an escape hatch disguised as honesty. I didn't follow them. I didn't call a cab or look at the bus schedule. I stayed. I wasn't sure why. Maybe I was waiting for something to make it make sense, or maybe I was punishing myself in a quiet, practical way. The hotel emptied out for the week. I started eating in silence, walking trails alone. There was no plan, just space. Too much of it. A week later, I sat on the back veranda with a mug of something lukewarm, wearing the sweater Grayson forgot in the closet. It still smelled faintly like his cologne, and I hated that I noticed. The lake was calm again, sky perfectly still, as if nothing had happened. But inside, it hadn't cleared. Not even close. I caught my reflection in the glass door, hair messy, face tired, that stupid sweater hanging off one shoulder. I didn't look like someone who'd survived something. I looked like someone who hadn't figured out what to survive yet. His words came back, uninvited. "You're warmer." And for a second, I believed it. That was the worst part, believing it. Letting it feel like comfort when it never was. There was no big lesson, no moment of strength rising from the ashes. Just quiet. Just the understanding that things had shifted and weren't going back. Trust, whatever it had meant before, didn't belong to me anymore. Not in others, not even in myself.